Hey, deserving listeners, in preparation for the new 90 Day Fiancé season, which is starting in December of 2020, I thought I would watch some of the couples that are returning to 90 Day Fiancé. I thought I would go back in time and watch their story so that I was all caught up with all 7 of the couples that are going to be on that show. Rebecca apparently is going to be on the new show again, and so I went back in time. We're going to start where she started off on the show, and I'm going to react to it. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and let's see if anything of interest comes out of my face as I watch this show.
47 years old, and I'm a private investigator. I love busting the cheaters.
A private investigator. Doesn't everyone want to be a private investigator? I would love to be a private investigator. It just sounds so cool, you know?
I'm super close to my family, but when it comes to relationships, it hasn't worked out very well for me. I fall hard and I fall quick.
Okay, interesting. So I always like it when we hear a little bit of history about the people, and she says that when she falls in love, she falls hard and she falls quick. That can mean a lot of different things, but it is a red flag of certain kind of relational traumas, and maybe we'll get data on that, maybe we won't. Let's continue watching.
Really? Me too, I want to kiss you, baby.
He's amazing. That's why I love him. Sorry. I can tell he means it. And he makes me happy. And I deserve it.
You do deserve it, Rebecca. You do deserve it.
Okay, this is the second time now that you're getting involved with a foreign man.
So Rebecca's not happy about that being outed on TV, it looks like. But nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a thing, as I've always said. But it could mean something. You know, what does it mean? And it's a really a case-by-case basis. And, of course, everyone on the show, that's their thing, or at least temporarily, that's their thing. And it does raise questions, right? You know, what is it about someone that attracts them to someone from another country? Particularly because it's such a pain in the butt to facilitate dating, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with someone.
Yeah.
What makes it different this time?
I've been married 3 times, and the first 2 were average, run-of-the-mill American men. And then a couple of years ago, I met my ex on Facebook, and he was from Morocco. We ended up getting married in Morocco, and I brought him over here on the spousal visa, but it was within 3 or 4 months that I saw another side of him. Because I'm a private investigator, I started realizing that there was something going on.
Wow. Yeah, interesting. So if anyone's going to catch their spouse on the secrets or the secret lives that they're living, it's going to be her, because she's a private investigator and she knows how to put GPS tracking devices on your car. But yeah, I mean, so let me just speak to this a little bit. A big barrier to success in these relationships, well, there are 2 main barriers. One is that you start off online communicating, falling in love, and over time you get this idea, we call it a fantasy, about what the relationship will actually be like, which is natural. You start thinking, oh my God, we're perfect together. We never fight. Everything is beautiful. All I get are heart emojis and blowing of kisses on FaceTime. This is the best relationship I've ever been in. I feel so special. This is so great, because it's not an actual in-person relationship yet. And research shows that it's hard to know what a relationship is like until you actually meet in person. Now, once you're in person, you can separate for long periods of time and still basically know what the relationship is actually like. But in the beginning of a relationship, you absolutely have to be with each other to get a sense of who the other person is. Now, maybe once you meet the person in real life, you love them even more. But there's just a lot of question marks. So she met someone on Facebook from Morocco. She gets married very quickly, I'm guessing. They get a visa, and then we're going to hear the story. But very quickly, she realized that I'm guessing he wasn't a good match, or maybe he was even a bad actor in some way, meaning that he never really loved her. I don't know. And so that would make you perhaps be a little bit more skeptical about meeting someone online, or at the very least pump the brakes a little bit of like, well, I met this guy from Tunisia, but the last time I met a guy from Morocco, I really built up this idea in my head about what the relationship was like. And then when I actually met him, it was a very different story. So with this guy in Tunisia, I'm going to pump the brakes. I really like him and I really want to get to know him, but who knows? And I wish more people would do this on this show, honestly. If any of y'all are watching, and sometimes you do, some of you actually email me, cast members who are on these shows, you actually will email me, or some of you have been in similar situations, or some of you have even been in relationships with some of these people and you email me. Anyway, the point is that if you're a cast member, or you're going to be a cast member, a little tip, this is just friendly advice, is allow there to be a question mark. Live from the question mark. Don't live from the assumption that you are a good match, because you just don't know yet. You will find out, and what a wonderful opportunity you have before you to find out. But just don't make up any assumptions until you actually be in person with them for, I don't know, I'm going to say at least a month. Often on this show, within days, the people realize, oh, whoa, we are not the same together in person than when we were online. So maybe even within a week or a month, but definitely 6 to 12 months, you're going to get a better idea of how the two of you fit together. And I'm just going to take a guess. I've read a lot of the research, but I can't remember the exact statistics. I'm just going to take a guess and say that if you give yourself more time, 6 to 12 months in person of dating, you're going to have a much better idea of how you fit together. And you're going to have a much better idea of who that person is. So she's doing the same thing. Why would that be? And she also has a narrative. It's interesting, one's narrative tells a lot about one's psyche and your traumas and your decision, your motivation. She said that her first two husbands were run-of-the-mill American guys. What does that mean? Does that mean that they were boring to her somehow? They were too regular, or they had common issues that her perception most American men have? Maybe that's an accurate accusation or observation. Who knows? But anyway, let's hear what happened with her and her third husband, this fella.
I place a GPS tracker on his car, and I found out that he was cheating on me with other women.
Did I not just say that if you are going to cheat, or you think you might cheat, don't marry a private investigator who can put a GPS detector on your car.
I'm just worried that she doesn't really know this guy like she thinks she knows this guy. I've already seen what she went through with her ex. When she realized what her ex was doing, things did not end well there. Have you done a background check on this guy?
I haven't done like one that we can do through the agency.
With the work that we do,
I know.
and the crazies that we see out there.
I don't know how to do an international background check, but every single thing that I could possibly find about him, I have looked for.
Okay. I wonder if maybe she even told him, look, by the way, I've been doing some sleuthing around the internet about you, and I found this page, I found that. Or she hasn't told him about it, but that's interesting. So she has essentially internet stalked him and found a bunch of information about him. Now, a lot of people will do that. A lot of people do that on the first date. You Tinder someone, you go on a date, you get their name, you go home, and you instantly just scour the internet for anything that will tell you about them. And yeah, that's the world we live in right now. And so, by the way, every once in a while you might want to Google yourself and find out what's out there and available to be seen by people. And actually, particularly if you're a clinician, this is actually known advice for therapists, which is to, and I guess any sort of clinical position that you might have, medical, you want to Google yourself and find out what your clients or patients might find if they were to Google you. Because if you have something out there, that's fine for you to have, but if it damages the relationship with the client or makes the client feel like you can't listen to them or can't treat them, then that is actually considered unethical. What would be an example of that? So let's say that you're a therapist and you're also heavy into politics for one side or the other. And you go to rallies and you vote in a certain way and you wear certain shirts that say things and you hold picket lines and you protest and you yell and you scream and you mighty and here's the kicker. You hate the other side. You accuse the other side of the typical things that partisan people will accuse the other side of. And that's your right. As a citizen, as a human, as an American, that is absolutely your right, and you should do what you feel is right. That's the American dream, is political freedom. And so scream and yell and protest and hold signs and do the whole thing. But let's say that you have a website that is dedicated to you and your beliefs, or you have a YouTube video and you're screaming, those Democrats or those Republicans are a bunch of terrible people and they don't know what they're talking about and all of them should just, go to heck and whatever you're saying. And then your client comes across that and they are on the other side of the political spectrum. Well, that's going to challenge their relationship. Now, it's not a done deal that it's going to ruin their relationship, but it does complicate things. And if you did have stuff out there, you'd have to talk with your clients about that because you don't know if they're going to Google you, find it, and not tell you that they did because they might be embarrassed that they Googled you. So it's now, some people will say, hey, I should have the freedom to do what I want to do. And I'm not going to silence, certain parts of my life because of a client might take it wrong or something. And there is some justification for that, but you have to go through the steps as a therapist to think, consult, figure out what alternatives you might have, figure out a way to do it so that you don't challenge your relationships with your clients and proceed ahead. Along those lines, I do these reaction videos and I have clients and they might see these videos. And so some might say, hey, you're revealing too much stuff. But I always think, I've been podcasting for 12 and a half years. I have always been thinking that all my clients are listening to every episode, are watching every video. They're not. But I always assume that they are because that's the ethical thing to do. And thus, if I ever do say something, I edit it out if I think that it would harm my relationship with a client. I do that with every single episode. I never just put random stuff out there. I'm very controlled about that for the sake of the ethical responsibility I have to my clients.
I'm getting all of his information. I'm running the background check. And let's pray and hope that it's good. Because
the other thing, just while I'm on the topic of my own approach to this ethical question and consideration and guideline, is that I have written papers. I've done a lot of research on this. I teach on this. I consult with experts on this. I've read all the experts on this. So this isn't just my idea of how to approach a therapist using social media or YouTube. I have done extensive research on the literature, talked to experts, talked to lawyers. I have my own lawyers whom I consult with. So it's not like it's just me making stuff up that would sort of justify my actions. I've taken a lot of outside input and adjusted accordingly. And I recommend any clinician out there that is doing that. Along those lines, I encourage clinicians to get on YouTube, to get podcasts. We need to get science-based information out there. We all understand that there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. My goodness, particularly on YouTube, my goodness. And we need more science-based professionals providing information to the world to better the world, to spread the good news, to spread the science-based good news. So please do it. And it's a bit of a frustration of mine because I've been on the internet for 12 and a half years, and I know so many of my colleagues and friends who are super experts in certain areas, have a lot to offer, are charismatic, they're professors, their students love them, they're doing very interesting research, and they refuse to go on the internet. Now, every clinician doesn't need to go on the internet. Every professor doesn't need to go on the internet. But think if more did. Think of the effect that it would have on society to have more evidence-based, science-based information out there. We need that in our society, particularly today.
Because at that point, you're there, girl, and there's going to be no turning back.
I have not seen a single red flag with Zied. But it's so easy on the internet to be a certain way. You know, I've already been through this. I've told my children, I know I've done this before, but trust me, it's different this time. And what if it's not?
And by the way, I keep thinking of stuff to say about this as I'm watching the show. If you are a clinician in mental health and are thinking, but I don't know how to get on YouTube, I don't know how to start a podcast, email me, we'll talk. I can usually just give you some little pointers. I also have episodes on this topic that you can actually listen to. I'm on a mission to have more clinicians on YouTube, more clinicians that have podcasts. Plenty are doing it, which is great. All right, well, that does it for that episode. If you haven't already subscribed, that'd be cool. If you can give a thumbs up, if you can comment below, I'm always interested in that. Also, if you can give a thumbs up or thumbs down, I don't know if you can do that to the comments below. That's always good too, because the more comments, go to the top, I think, anyway. Anyway, everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.